Hello and welcome to the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I've been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we are continuing to move forward to another offseason together. As always, you can find our 100% free 24/7 boots on the ground coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars every day when you follow us on social media such as Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI. You can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. All right, folks, welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Over the last couple episodes, we've broken down, quite a bit. Players on our radar, players who need to bounce back, some sleepers, etc. Who had the best off seasons, who is in the biggest prove it year, all that kind of stuff. We also went over 3 reasons to be optimistic about the Jaguars heading into the 2025 season. But now we're going to take a little bit of a step back and give you 3 reasons that are legitimate concerns for the Jaguars heading into 2025. I'm not dooming and glooming the Jaguars and saying because of these 3 things, they will amount to nothing in a 2025 season. I'm just saying these are 3 very legitimate hurdles that they need to get over. Now, I think the number 1 concern for the Jaguars heading into the season has to be, obviously, the health and status of quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Can they keep Trevor Lawrence healthy? I don't think there's much concern over whether they can get Lawrence to week 1 healthy. I mean, they mentioned far before, like when the offseason program first began, in terms of like phase 1 and liftings and meetings and stuff like that, stuff that wasn't even on the field. They mentioned that the idea of a pitch count for Trevor Lawrence, but in the offseason practices that we saw, he was slinging the crap out of the thing. He threw plenty of passes, plenty of volume. So when I say the health and status of Trevor Lawrence, I don't mean the health and status heading into week 1, heading into the season. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV, but I'm not, assuming that there's going to be any issue for him moving forward. With that said, the last 2 seasons have shown us exactly why the Jaguars need Trevor Lawrence to stay healthy. And the last 2 seasons have been a little bit of an indictment of his ability to do so. Now, of course, no player is choosing to be injured. He's obviously said how frustrated he's been at the injuries. About 6 injuries over the last 2 seasons. He had I believe it was a knee injury against the Colts. He had the shoulder injury. He had the concussion. And this is 2023. He also had the ankle injury. He's also had last year the shoulder injury and the concussion. He's only missed, I believe, 8 games. Not only 8 games. That's quite a bit for a starting quarterback. But he's missed 8 games in the last 2 seasons due to 6 injuries. But he's also played at far under 100% in other games. So if there has to be one concern for the Jaguars, it's can Trevor Lawrence stay healthy? That has to be far and away, in my opinion, concern number 1, because we've seen what happens to the Jaguars when Trevor Lawrence isn't healthy. I know this is a new supporting cast, a new coaching staff, maybe a backup quarterback plays better in relief of Lawrence in this context than they would have done in the past. But I'm firmly of the belief that for the Jaguars to get to where they want to go, they need Lawrence. They need him to play well, and they need him to be healthy. So that, to me, has to be number 1. And again, not an indictment on anybody, not pointing the fingers at injuries, anything like that, but it's become a very real thing with Lawrence over the last 2 seasons. The best ability is availability. So can he turn that around in 2025 under this coaching staff? That's a big question that they need to find out. I'd say the second biggest concern going into the year has to be interior defensive line. Did the Jaguars make the right call by opting to not add more to that room? We've talked about it before. Eric Armstead, he's been very productive in the past. Devon Hamilton's been productive in the past. Jordan Jefferson and Mason Smith showed flashes. So those are like 4 guys right there who have some positional versatility, have some pass rush upside, have some run defense upside. But it's still a unit that, with all these same guys, was amongst the worst interior defensive lines in football last year, both in terms of stopping the run and getting after the quarterback. I think a big part of that, obviously, had to do with Eric Armstead playing outside much more than anybody anticipated. He's obviously much more impactful inside. We've gone over his pass rush difference, between him rushing inside and him rushing outside before. His numbers when he's rushing inside are just on a different level. They're not similar whatsoever. So there is context to why this unit struggled last year, but the Jaguars didn't add anything to it. And just think about some of the position groups the Jaguars overhauled this season. They overhauled the quarterback room. They overhauled the tight end room. They overhauled the wide receiver room. They overhauled the cornerback room. They've overhauled the safety room. They've added a lot of edge depth. They've not been shy about fixing up this roster and doing so in their image and moving on from some Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson guys. But defensive tackle is really the one position where they haven't done anything. They have 3 undrafted free agents at the position, of course, but they didn't spend a single one of their draft picks at the position. They didn't sign a veteran in free agency. They are completely banking on the guys from last season to take a step forward and be more impactful this year. And, of course, they're probably hoping that a change in the defensive scheme and changing, for example, where Armstead's playing will factor in a great bit, and they probably will. But still, this is a room that last year struggled really in all facets, and now the Jaguars are completely banking on that unit. And I can't think of any other position where they're doing that. They're not doing it on the offensive line. I mean, I guess maybe linebacker to an extent because they're returning 2 starters, but even the depth of linebacker. I mean, they brought on Jalen McLeod and obviously Jack Kaiser. So defensive tackle is one position the Jaguars just haven't addressed. And for them not to address it, you have to think that shows some confidence in the guys that they have this year. Now, as general managers have always said, you can't fill all of your roster holes in one season. But not even a draft pick, not even a free agent. Defensive tackle will be heavily under the microscope for the Jaguars this offseason. The final, I'd say, quote-unquote concern for the Jaguars heading into the 2025 season has to center around just the sheer inexperience on the coaching staff. I'm a big fan of the hires they made. I went throughout the offseason saying that Liam Cohen was 1A and 1B with Ben Johnson in terms of their preferences. I had Liam Cohen right when the job opened as the second best possible candidate in all of football to take this job. So I'm a big Liam Cohen fan, but rookie head coach, rookie offensive coordinator, rookie defensive coordinator, there is definitely a bit of inexperience for the Jaguars on the coaching staff. And then first-year general manager, first-year executive vice president, Antonio Bazzelli. The inexperience is kind of rampant throughout. And they have added some guys, especially in the front office. Brian Sanders comes to mind, who have experience and who have done it before and done it for a long time. And there are a couple guys on the offensive side of the ball, Bill Sheridan on defense comes to mind right away, Ron Miles. But overall, there's a reason that this team was talking to Ron Rivera about a potential role on the staff before he went over to become the czar of Cal football. They very much wanted a experienced voice on the staff. And little Shipley nugget, he's not the only one they were considering. We'll see if that happens in the future, but he's not the only, I'd say, person with vast years of experience in the NFL and even head coaching experience who at one point they were considering adding to the staff. So we'll see, what happens in the years moving forward. But to call it an inexperienced staff isn't a criticism. It's just a reality of where things are. And we will see how they face that inexperience and how they mature over the course of the next season. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter. You can find all of our podcasts at the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast on Apple, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. And you can also find us on YouTube at Sports Videos on SI.